Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another Facebook Live. I'm very excited to be here, and this week joining me is Lynn. Hi, Lynn.
Hi, Craig. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I'm really looking forward to speaking today about weddings. But before we do that, we should introduce ourselves. So let's start with the lady.
Okay, so my name is Lynn and I'm from putitlikethis.com. That's the web address for my website. My business is called Put It Like This. And I'm an English teacher. And so if anybody's interested in online classes, then I teach all sorts of different things in English to match your objectives. And you, Craig?
My name's Craig. I'm from the website. I write material and courses at mansioningles.com. And also we have a podcast every Sunday that gets released every Sunday. It's called Aprender Inglés con Reza y Craig. It's aimed at Spanish speakers, although we mainly speak English. And the address for that is inglespodcast.com or wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you're watching the replay on Facebook, thank you very much for spending time with us. And we have started to be joined by people in the chat. So hello, Jose Fernando from Mexico. Good to see you here.
Mm-hmm.
And
hi.
Who's that? Inolvidable Yesi Maximiano. Hi.
Mm-hmm. Hello.
I'm Vicente. It's a pleasure to see you as well, Vicente. And Vicente and Lionel is joining. Hi.
Hi, and Alejandro Benavides. Mm-hmm. And Daniel from Colombia. Yeah, so we got Mexico, Colombia, Christine. Hi, Christine again.
Hi, Christine.
Gabriela. And Ivan. And he said, we're awesome already, and we haven't started yet.
we haven't said anything. How awesome can you be?
Thank you, Ivan.
Thank you.
Okay,
today we're talking about
Chile too. Sorry,
someone from Chile.
Mm-hmm, Chile as well. Right, great.
Today we're talking about weddings, and we're going to look at some vocabulary connected to weddings that we hope you will find useful. And towards the end of the session, we'll share some things about our weddings, and also hopefully you can come in and tell us any experiences you have had with weddings.
Are we going
to hear that?
Are we going to persuade them to get married or not?
I don't know. Is it a good idea to get married, Lynn? What do you think?
Well, we're going to answer that at the end because we have to keep some suspense, don't we, as we're going?
We'll let you know what we think about marriage at the end. But you've just used the first expression that we're going to look at, to get married. The thing is, remember the preposition, because in Spanish, you get married with someone. You say con, but in English, you get married to someone. So married to, divorced from, to get married to someone. Other expressions you can use for getting married, you can say I do, because when you get married, that's something you sometimes say in a religious ceremony. You say I do. Do you take this lady, is it? Or
do you take this
man? Did you take this
woman and man
to be your lawfully wedded wife or husband, and you say I do. So you can say, yeah, I said I do. That's a way of saying you got married. And the next one, Lynn?
Okay, so sometimes we also, like it's a metaphor, we say to tie the knot. So you can say, when are you going to tie the knot? And that means, obviously, a knot is, how do I describe a knot? It's when you have two pieces of string and you tie them in a knot. Oh, you've got a better knot there. That's it. You were a sailor, weren't you? That's right. So to tie the knot means, when are you going to get married? It's like so that you're inseparable, so that you can't be separated anymore. That's quite a common one, isn't it? To say to tie the knot.
Yeah.
When are you going to tie the knot?
Tie the knot. When you're going to make a commitment to your girlfriend or boyfriend. And Ivan said, "My girlfriend would love this." Ivan, get her to come and listen. She might be your wife.
Yeah, but Ivan, you're the one who should be loving it as well.
You can marry someone or get married to someone. Marry is also a verb. You can marry someone, and then if you get divorced and marry the same person again, you remarry, which is what happened to my parents. My parents were married for 2 years. My sister was born, and then they got divorced, and
Oh,
then they
really?
married again, and I was born. That's
Oh,
why
wow.
there are 9 years. There's 9 years difference between my age and my sister's age. She's 9 years
Uh-huh.
older, because in the middle, my parents got divorced and
That's
remarried.
and it's very odd that the same people remarry. That's very unusual. What a story. Uh-huh.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I have remarried because I've been married twice. Uh-huh.
I did not know
So,
that.
yeah, I've been married twice. So this is my second marriage, my longest marriage, the happiest marriage. This is the good one. I got it right the second time.
Did you elope with your current husband?
I did. Now we have the word elope, and elope. Well, originally the word elope means to run away. But when you talk about marriage,
run away from the person you want to marry.
No. Run away with the person you want to marry. But in wedding, when we talk about weddings, the word elope has come to mean when you go away with your future partner to get married in secret. So that maybe you don't want to have a big wedding. Maybe you want to do it secretly and only you two know. Or maybe you only want to have a very, very small wedding. But basically, elope in wedding jargon. I looked this up I checked this because you're looking doubtful, Craig, but I checked this on the internet.
No, I'm looking at the comments. You carry on.
Okay. So elope apparently with weddings means if you go away and you don't tell anybody you're going to get married. And I did elope the second time. So there's another story to come.
Okay, well, shall we wait for that and you can tell it at the
We'll
end?
wait for that. We'll tell it at the end if we've got time.
Viviana's already practicing the vocabulary. She tied the knot 22 years ago, and she looks very happy with the person there.
Yeah.
And Christine says before tying the knot, someone has to pop the question, which is a nice expression. To pop the question means to propose marriage, to say, will you marry me? So that's a metaphor, to pop the question. And I think Ivan's asking, if you remarry, does it need to be with a different person? No. As I said with my parents, you can remarry the same person, or you can remarry and marry a different person. The which means again, is the marriage. It's the ceremony that's repeated, not the person.
But it really means, because I'm not sure, maybe Ivan means some people who are married, they renew their vows.
That's different.
And that's different. I'm not sure, maybe he meant that like some people who are married, they're maybe married for, I don't know, 20 years. And then they decide, oh, it was such a nice thing, we're going to do it again. And they kind of like have a ceremony where they say their promises to one another again. But that is not remarrying. That is called renewing your vows.
And I've just put,
so
I don't think we have
remarrying is definitely after you have to divorce in order to remarry, or maybe your partner died and then you can remarry a second time.
And we don't have a banner for this, but you've mentioned the word vow, and to vow, it's a verb and a noun. A vow is a very, very strong promise, and your wedding vows are the promises you make to the person you're marrying. You will always be faithful to that person. You will support them if they're sick or if they're healthy. You'll always love them. Those are the very, very strong promises or vows you make to your wife or your husband. So wedding vows.
Okay.
Right. Let's carry on then with some more vocabulary. What's a shotgun wedding?
Oh, I can tell you that because I had that as well.
Really? You're full of
Yes, I do.
surprises
I'm
today.
full of surprises, Craig. So a shotgun wedding has the original meaning. A shotgun is like they have in the cowboy and Indian films, in the old Western films where they have a big gun and they kill somebody. And a shotgun wedding traditionally it comes from America. The idea, it's from American English, and it's basically when the parents, maybe the couple, the woman has sex before marriage, and maybe she's pregnant or maybe not, and the father puts a shotgun to the boy's head and says, "You have to marry my daughter."
Do the right thing.
Do the right thing. And so that's the idea of a shotgun wedding. But I didn't have that one. No, that wasn't the shotgun wedding I had. But we also talk about a shotgun wedding now. Often it means when two people decide to get married and the woman is pregnant to have children. So sometimes that is referred to as a shotgun wedding. So they got married because she was pregnant now, or she's pregnant when she gets wedding. And that was the case with me. So I was pregnant with my first daughters, and we got married. But we got married because we had to. It wasn't because my father was pointing a shotgun.
Okay, so I'm dying to ask you questions, but I'll wait, and I'll bite my tongue and wait until you tell us the story, which I hope you will at the end.
All right.
A civil partnership, I'm not quite sure what that is. Is it when you're living together legally with someone, but you're not actually married?
Yeah.
So it's a legal relationship for all other purposes, but you haven't had the marriage ceremony. Is that right?
Yes, I think that's right. And sometimes in some countries, civil partnerships is an alternative to marriage, because some countries don't allow, for example, homosexual marriage. They only allow heterosexual marriage. So in some countries, if you are gay or lesbian and you want to get married and you can't, then you have to have a civil partnership. But that gives you the same legal rights in the country as a married couple, because of course for taxation or for other inheritance, for legal things, it's important to have a status. But I also know in Spain, I have friends who just don't believe in marriage, but they went to do the civil partnership, and they didn't want to make these vows that they're going to be together forever, but they wanted to sign a legal document that legally linked them. So I do know that.
That's very similar to me, although I did get married, and I got married in our next collocation, which is a registry office, which is a non-religious legal marriage. So you go to a state civil office and you sign papers and you exchange promises, but it's not a religious ceremony. And that's what I did. I'll tell you the full story later, but I got married a few years ago in a registry office by a registrar. The registrar is the person who writes in a register that you are legally married. So you get a marriage book, and the actual marriage takes place in an office. It's not very romantic, but it's very practical.
And you can get married, of course, in a church. That's the sort of one that we all know from Hollywood. Yeah, they get married in church. Ivan's asking, does getting married mean vowing in a religious ceremony? No, it doesn't have to be
not
religious.
Necessarily. No.
So you can get married like Craig did in the registry office. But the institution of marriage supposes that you are going to be together forever. And if you are not going to be together forever, you have to get divorced. And that's the difference with the civil partnership. The civil partnership, you don't have to get divorced. You can just, I don't know what you do with a civil partnership to end it, but it seems to be a lot less complicated.
Yeah.
And then you can also have a civil ceremony if you're not religious and you don't want to get married in a church. It's allowed now in many countries to have a ceremony in the park, up a mountain, on a beach.
On the beach.
That's it, and that's often a civil ceremony because there is no religious person there. So it's a registrar often who is in the civil ceremony. A religious ceremony, obviously, is usually in church. And then we have stag nights. Tell them about a stag night, Craig.
Oh, yes. One of my favorite things. A stag night is when all the men decide to celebrate together before the wedding happens. So the men go out together and they celebrate by often, although not always, drinking a lot of beer and alcohol, having a party, being silly. And when I was very young, it used to be just one night. Although in the last few years, men sometimes go away for a weekend or 3 or 4 days, obviously before the pandemic happened. And they would go to a place abroad, perhaps, maybe go to a different country, a different city to have their stag night or stag weekend. And the equivalent for women is a hen night. So a hen night is the same thing, but all the ladies, all the girls get together and they celebrate a night of being single before the marriage takes place. In the US, a stag night is often called a bachelor party because if you're not married and you're a man, you are a bachelor.
Mm-hmm. And maybe you should just realize that stag, the word stag, is actually the name of an animal. And it's the male deer. Is that right? It's a male deer, a stag.
Yes,
the one. Think
with
of Bambi. Think of Bambi, the little baby one. And then when it's a male one and it's a big one with the big antlers, they're called. They're not called horns. They're called antlers. Stags are often on Christmas cards, aren't they? Because they look a little bit like reindeers sometimes.
Yeah, they do.
And hen is a female chicken. Is that right? But
yes.
It's not the same animal as a chicken, but it looks like a chicken. It lays eggs. We eat eggs. It's a hen. Okay. So the women are compared to chickens and the men are compared to deer. Mm-hmm. And in the US, they just say bachelor.
Let's see if you can guess what the connection is between these words. How are these words connected?
Are you asking me or are you asking the viewers?
I'm asking the viewers. I'm asking people watching live on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
Andrea's got the correct spelling of deer. It's D-E-E-R and not D-E-A-R.
Mm-hmm.
So what are these words? How are they connected? What's the connection between these words? Priest. Be careful of the pronunciation. There's an I-E, but the vowel sound is E. So it's priest, not priest, priest. Minister, vicar, pastor, rabbi, and imam.
Mm-hmm.
Any idea? No one's answering.
That's a question for you guys. Wake up. Tell us, how are these connected to weddings?
It's an easy question.
Yeah, it might take a longer time for them to type.
Yeah, it's the delay.
Here we are. Vero's got something.
Well done, Vero.
Well done.
You're the winner.
Uh-huh.
They have the power to marry people, exactly.
That's right.
But which religions? I know a rabbi is the Jewish religion. Imam is Muslim.
A pastor is the word, as far as I know it, in America. A priest is usually from the Catholic religion, the Roman Catholic religion. And in America, because they have lots of evangelical religions, which are Christian religions, but they tend to call the leaders of their churches pastors. And in Britain, we call the leader of the Church of England, we don't call them priests, we call them vicars. And in Scotland, they call them ministers.
Oh, it's a Scottish term. I did not know that.
Yeah, I did because, of course, my second wedding was in Scotland and we had a minister.
Okay, so you had a minister.
Which I didn't know either. Mm-hmm.
So is minister then only used in Scotland, or can
No,
ministers be?
I think it depends on the religion. There's lots of different types of religion. I'm not an expert, but
I think
they're all
maybe
religious.
Anglican can be a
Anglican.
minister.
Yeah,
The Anglican Church.
They are all religious leaders, these people on this banner. Okay.
Christine says also a city town councillor can marry you. I think that's true. And the captain of a ship
Yeah.
as well.
And then Vero says, are vicars in a sort of higher position than priests? No, it's just a different religion. So priest is Catholic religion and vicars are Anglican. They're both Christian religions, but they're just different branches. Okay. All right.
So can we continue?
Yeah, let's continue.
Oh, yes. 2 more people who can marry you. Registrar, we said earlier, in a registry office, a registrar can legally marry you, and justice of the peace as well. Yeah.
Also. I think so.
Okay. Well, on the same idea of you telling us vocabulary, we're going to now describe 6 or 7 words connected to weddings. And when you know which word we're describing, please write the word in the chat. Okay, so we're defining the word, you're writing it in the chat. What's the first word?
Okay, so the woman who is about to get married, what is the name of her? What's her title? The woman who is going to get married. What do we call her? Well done. Vero is quick. She's quick. She's wonderful. There you are. Vero's got it again. You've won.
Vero's got it.
It is the bride, right? So the woman is called the bride. And then now, of course, we have the next question. What do you call the man?
What do you call the man? So it's the bride, the woman, and the man is... It's the... Monica says wife. It's wife after the wedding, Monica, but during the wedding, she's the bride. During the wedding, after she becomes
when you're
wife.
married, you're the wife. But if you're getting married, you're the bride. Somebody has said fiance, but the word fiance is before. It's when you're engaged. It's before the wedding. A long time before the wedding, you are the fiance.
Nala Photo has got the answer.
Well done.
Well done. It's groom.
Groom. That's right. Groom. And then Vero is offering husband, but husband, like wife, is what happens afterwards. So first of all, you're a boy and a girl, or a woman and a man. And then you decide you want to get married, and then you are fiancés. Fiancés. And then during the ceremony, the woman is the bride and the man is the groom. And then afterwards, the woman is the wife and the man is the husband. Is that right? Yeah.
Well explained. Yep. Fantastic.
Okay.
So we've got another word for you to guess. Let me just remove this one from the screen. So the next word for you to guess is, this is the best friend of the groom. Now, it can be the groom's brother or just a very, very, very good friend. And this person keeps the ring, both rings, and gives the rings. This person often organizes the stag night. This person helps the groom on the day, trying to take away all the worry of the actual ceremony. So what's the name of this person who helps the groom during the wedding and before the wedding?
Margot's got it. Well done, Margot. Can you get that one?
Best man.
The best man. Okay. And so we have a best man for the man. And then, of course, the bride often also has people around her, and they are also maybe her sisters, or maybe it is a friend. And the bride has more people, but she has one that is very important, like she has the same status as the best man. Do you know the name for the most important one, or the names for the others? Yeah, they usually often wear the same kind of dress, so they're very easy to identify. I think Christine has got it.
Yeah.
Can you see there? Yeah. So the lady who's the equivalent to the best man is the maid of honor. Maid of honor. And the maid of honor is the important one, if you like. And then there are other ones, and the maid of honor is in charge of them. Usually they're like smaller and a bit younger. Do you know what they're called?
They often carry the train of the dress, the long part of the dress that goes behind the bride, the wedding dress. Sometimes they carry that, or flowers.
Oh, flowers. Anybody know?
And they're often quite young, aren't they? Often
Yeah,
girls.
sometimes they're like very, very small, because the smaller they are, the cuter they look. They look really cute. I don't think anybody's getting this one. We better tell them. These are called the bridesmaids. So the most important one is the maid of honor. So that's the second part of that word, the maid of honor. But the other ones are called bridesmaids. Bridesmaids. Okay. It's a bit tricky to say that as well, isn't it? Bridesmaids.
Bridesmaids, lots of consonants.
Yeah. Christine also says flower girl, and it's true that in some places they call them flower girls, but in the UK we tend to say bridesmaids. Okay.
Right, let me take that away. So we've got two more words for you to guess. Oh, this one's quite easy, I think. Everybody else that gets invited to the wedding, what are they called? Everybody who comes to eat, have a good time. What are they called? The people who go to a wedding. See the
ceremony.
People who go to the party, have a meal.
They receive an invitation telling them that the event is happening. Okay.
Anybody know?
Vero.
Yep. Vero's got it. Well done.
Yeah, you're doing great, Vero. You're really good.
Vero's on fire today.
She's on fire. She's getting them all. Guests.
Guests. Be careful of the pronunciation. Again, there's two vowels in there, but it's eh. It's an S sound. The U is silent. So just think guests. No you, just guests. Wedding guests. And there's one more word. Yeah.
So this one is, so we said that you are your boy and girl, and then just to remember, you're boy and girl, and then you meet and you get on, and then you are fiancés because you decide you want to get married. Then in the ceremony, you are bride and groom. And then when you leave the church, or you leave wherever you're getting married, people, if they see you, maybe they see and they can tell that you've just got married. You've just got married because you've still got the dress on. What do they call you as a couple? They have a word which describes the two of you. You are not husband and wife. I mean, you are husband and wife, but that's like much later. But when you're recently married, there's a special word that you are called.
Eleanor said just married. Yes, you are just married.
You are just married.
What sometimes you see in films, they put on the car, just married. But there's one word that describes two people who are just married. Married couple is another synonym.
Christine's got it.
Yes, well done, Christine.
Well done,
newlyweds.
Fantastic. You're newlyweds.
Newlyweds. Yep.
And it can happen just immediately after the ceremony, or it could be a month after you've got married and you go to see your grandmother, and the grandmother tries to be funny and she says, "Ooh, how are the newlyweds? She asks how you are. So we use that word newlywed.
Ivan's thrown in a nice word into the chat. Spouses, your spouse. What's your spouse? That's not a very common word, but it's the husband or the wife, because with husband, it's gender specific. You know, it's a man. And with wife, that's also gender specific. You know, it's a woman. Your spouse can be your husband or your wife. So there's no gender attached to the word spouse. A similar word is sibling. Your siblings are your brothers and sisters, but brother is a male and sister is a female. But if you say the word sibling, it could be a brother, it could be a sister, and spouse is very similar, but for married people.
Okay. All right. And I'm sorry, there was something on the chat, but a long time ago, and it kept getting asked. Somebody was asking, what is the word for padrino in a wedding? Somebody kept saying padrino, padrino, padrino. But a padrino is called in English godfather. And the godfather really doesn't have anything specific to do with a wedding. A godfather is when you have your child, your children, and if you want to baptize your children or christen your children, then there is you usually choose a friend, and there will be the godmother and the godfather, and this is another couple. And the role of those people is usually that if anything happens to you before your child is grown up, maybe if you die, or then these people will look after your child. That's like the promise that's made in church. But that is what padrino is. It's godfather, but he doesn't really have a role in the ceremony of a wedding.
Are you a godmother to any children?
Yes, I've got 2 goddaughters. Yeah, wow. For 2 families. Yeah, but they're grown up now, so I don't have to do anything. I hope not.
we've got a question from Jose Ignacio, who says, "What do you think about polyamory? I really like 2 girls, but I think if I propose that kind of relationship, they're going to kick me up." I'm not sure what you mean by kick me up. That's a phrasal verb that I don't recognize.
Beat me up.
Beat me
up, I think you want to
Pegar.
say.
Yeah, beat me up would be better. Or just kick me maybe, but not kick me up. My opinion is, I mean, if everyone is consenting, if everybody agrees and everybody is an adult and nobody's getting hurt, I have no problem with it. But I understand people may have problems with it, especially people who are religious. They might not agree with it, but I think, you know, if adults are consenting and everybody's okay and nobody's getting hurt, then I think it's okay. Anyway, that's my opinion.
Yeah. Sorry, can you put that up again? I just wanted to say one little thing about English. In Spanish, you were laughing and you put in brackets, ya, which in Spanish is ha, ha, ha. But in English, when we write that, we actually don't use a J. We say H-A, ha, ha, ha. And it's quite important, because if English people don't know Spanish, I remember the first time that somebody wrote that to me. They also wrote he, which was Jejej, and I had no idea what they meant.
Yeah.
So if you write an English comment and you want to put in brackets that you're laughing or smiling, you need to write ha, 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 ha.
Or, as I've just put in the chat room now, you could write LOL, which is laugh out loud, which is very common in texting as well. That also works.
That's right.
Okay, they've got some more vocabulary to look at before we go into telling our stories. So wedding vows, we've spoken about those very strong promises that you make to your husband or wife. The tuxedo is the thing you wear if you're a man. Now, this is interesting to me because the direct translation in Spanish is smoking, at least in Peninsular Spanish, where I live here in Spain. Spanish speakers say smoking, which is a smoking jacket, perhaps you could say, but that doesn't translate as smoking in English, because to smoke is a verb.
To smoke like this. Yeah.
But tuxedo would be the kind of wedding suit that you'd wear at a very formal wedding, and also a very formal event. If you think of James Bond playing roulette in a casino, he's probably wearing a tuxedo or a tux. You can just shorten it to tux, T-U-X.
And that's what the groom wears, and the best man, possibly. And then the bride, she wears a wedding dress usually with a veil. The veil is the very thin material that she covers her face with. Not all brides have this, but the traditional wedding dress that is white has a white veil, and they lift up the veil before they say the vows when they're at the altar of the church. And usually the bride is carrying a bouquet. Bouquet is the bunch of flowers that she usually carries. That's called a bouquet. And it's tradition to throw a bouquet, isn't it?
Yep.
What happens if I throw my bouquet after the wedding and
you're supposed to throw it over your shoulder?
Over my shoulder. I don't look. The guests are behind me. I throw and what happens if you catch it?
If you catch it, then you're the next person to get married.
That's right.
Did you throw a bouquet at either of your weddings?
At the first one, yes, because I had a traditional wedding at the first one. And the second one, we eloped. So there was nobody to throw it to.
Okay. But did you have one? Did you carry a bunch of flowers, a bouquet?
Yes, I had a bouquet, yes.
When the bride makes an entrance into the church and the wedding music's playing and she's got her veil and her dress with a lovely train and the bridesmaids are walking behind her, she walks down the aisle. Be careful of the pronunciation of that word, A-I-S-L-E. The S is silent, so the pronunciation is exactly the same as the contraction with I will, I'll go, I'll have. It's exactly the same, aisle. And you find an aisle in a church. There's an aisle in a cinema, if you remember cinemas. There's an aisle in an aeroplane. And there's an aisle in your supermarket. You walk down the aisle, the different aisles in a supermarket. So it's like a corridor, but it's used for specific places, churches, planes, where else, Lynn? Churches, planes,
I think you said supermarkets. The only difference with the corridor, there's no walls. That's all. It's just a space. It's like a wide space where people can walk up and down, and then there are things on either side. Yeah,
that's the difference. But I think you're right. Has a wall.
So in any form of transport, like a bus or a train or a plane, they all have aisles so that you can access your seats.
Vanessa saying the word bouquet comes from the French. Yes, it's the second French, the second word of French origin. We had fiancé, which is also from French. And I think fiancé with two E's is the female. And fiancé with one E is the male. So both, so it's the same word, same pronunciation, different spelling. One's for the man, one's for the woman. And it's the promise of getting married. Elena's saying that formally, be careful of the word order here, Elena. It's better to say formally or originally, only virgins wore veils. Is that true? Sounds true to me.
I didn't know, but
interesting.
I can imagine that if you weren't a virgin, maybe you would still wear a veil because maybe your family would be upset if you didn't. So I don't know.
I remember years and years ago, I don't think this is true anymore, but years ago, only virgins could wear white at a wedding.
Yes, that's right.
A white dress.
But I think that was kind of like a tradition. So that in when I was a little girl, that was common, and it was. But I mean, I think all women wore white the first time they got married because it wasn't socially acceptable. You wouldn't wear a different color in order to announce to everybody that you were not a virgin. So I think the first wedding, most people wore white. But I know that when I was younger, that people who remarried or people who got married much older, it wasn't very acceptable for them to wear white.
Right.
Yeah. And so you often saw people who were remarrying, they might have had a nice dress, but they'd get married in a different color. But I don't think that matters nowadays in Britain. Do you, Craig? I think that is a bit old fashioned now. I think now people wear whatever they want.
I mean, my sister's also been married twice, and her first wedding, she was very young. She was 21, fairly young, and she wore pink. So I'll let you draw your own conclusions. But she did not get married in white. And Minnie is saying, yeah, the vow on the white color means virginity. The is not necessary because we're speaking about virginity in general. And when you speak about things in general, you don't need the article. So yeah, it means virginity. Okay. Do we have a channel on YouTube? Yes. Mansion Inglés. So youtube.com/Mansion Inglés. And these videos are also available there if you want to watch the past ones. We have one more expression before we speak about our weddings.
Right.
And this expression relates to one of my stories, to get cold feet.
Go ahead then. Did you get cold feet?
I did get cold feet. Now, you can get cold feet physically if it rains outside, for example, and your socks get wet, and that's something I really, really hate. Then you get cold feet. Your feet are physically cold. But idiomatically connected to weddings, if you get cold feet at a wedding, you decide very late not to get married. You run away from the wedding.
You change your mind.
Feet. You change your mind. So that's something that happened to me.
You got cold feet?
Yeah, I was 26, 27. I was living abroad in another country, and I was in love with a girl. We agreed to get married, and we agreed on a date to get married. We started to plan the wedding. Because I was living in another country, friends and family booked their flights to come to the wedding. They booked hotels to stay at when they came to the wedding. Everything was arranged. And 3 months before, I decided not to get married, and the wedding was cancelled. However, because it was abroad and they made all these reservations, they still came over, which was really uncomfortable because they came over for a wedding that didn't happen.
Oh my goodness.
So I got cold feet.
That's very upsetting. I'm sorry.
And, it is very upsetting, but I think it was the right decision.
Yeah, I mean, you get cold feet for a reason. If you are uncertain, it's very important to follow your instincts.
And I think even though I was 25 or 26, I think I was too young for that kind of responsibility because the girl I was intended to get married to wanted to start a family immediately, wanted to start a home. And I think I got cold feet and wasn't ready for that commitment. So I decided to call off the wedding. The phrasal verb to call off means to cancel. So we called off the wedding. And we're still in touch. We're still in contact, but we didn't get married.
Oh, well, Christine's asking, did you leave your fiance standing at the altar? But you didn't.
No.
Because
it wasn't the same day.
It wasn't the same day. Some people get cold feet really at the last minute. And the altar, we haven't given that word yet, but the altar is that sort of... it's like a table at the end of the aisle in the church. And that's where the wedding ceremony begins. And Christine is quite right with that phrase. You can say, if it happens to you and I hope it doesn't, because it must be a very upsetting experience, but some people get left standing at the altar. And you can say, he left me standing at the altar, or I was left standing at the altar. And that is an expression which means that the wedding was cancelled at the last minute. But it's so metaphorical at the altar that implies it is on the day, and you did yours 3 months earlier. Mm-hmm. Well, if it makes you feel better, Craig, I mean, I think you made the right decision. But the first time I got married, on the day, it was a similar, I mean, I'd been together with my partner for many years, and we thought we wanted to get married. But I remember that on the day when I was driving to the church with my father, and I remember thinking, I'm not sure if I'm making the right decision. And wow. I did have cold feet. And I wasn't brave enough to leave my partner standing at the wedding, at the altar.
How long were you married for?
9 months.
Wow.
So it was a mistake. It was a mistake, my first marriage. Not the relationship. The relationship was very nice. And I had a very, with my first husband, I respect him a lot. And he's a nice person and everything. But we made a mistake to get married. We didn't want the same things out of life. And I had cold feet, but I didn't cancel. And then 9 months later, that was all it was. So these weddings and relationships, they don't always turn out.
They don't always work out for the best. Mm-hmm. If you have a story you'd like to share, we're going to hopefully speak about happier times now and speak about positive things. So if you'd like to tell us about your wedding, I'm going to put a link that you can use to join us here live on Facebook if you want to practice your English. So come in and tell us about your wedding. We'd love to say hello to you and give you a chance to practice your English. Mm-hmm. But you eloped the second time, and
yes.
Where did you get married? Tell us about that.
Well, I eloped with my my husband of 21 years. I've been married 21 years now, so this one lasted longer, and we're still married, and we're still very happy. With my current husband, we decided. We also were both living in a different country. So he's Spanish, I'm English. And at the time we were living in Germany, and we really didn't, well, especially me, I didn't want to have a big wedding because I'd had a bad experience before. So I really just wanted a very, very small wedding. And it's very complicated when you're living in a foreign country because we had German friends, we had Spanish family and friends, and I had English family and friends. And so we just thought, you know what, we just want a very low key, that means like not very fancy. We just want a very low key, intimate wedding. So we decided that we wanted to have a wedding. And then the question was, where shall we go? So we decided to go to the equivalent. Maybe you know, in America, people get married quickly in Las Vegas. Well, in the UK, you can do that in Scotland.
Gretna Green, is it?
In Gretna Green. So we decided to go to Scotland because they do lots of weddings, all different types of weddings. And we went to Scotland and we got married in Gretna Green. But it wasn't entirely secret because in the end, our parents came. And my husband's brothers and sisters. So there were 8 people in total at my wedding. It was my husband and I and 6 others. So it was very nice. I can recommend it. Mm-hmm. And then we had a big party when we came back with all our friends in Spain, in England, and in Germany.
Where was the party?
Was nice.
Where did you celebrate?
We had 3 parties because it's easier to have parties for us to go to them than to organize a huge party like what happened to you, where people have to come from different countries and you have to put them in hotels and you have to translate and you have to, it was just too complicated. And it's much easier, low key. That's the one. So it was much easier for us to have a low key wedding, and it was a wonderful wedding. Mm-hmm.
The
Very
best wedding
nice.
ever, says Maria.
Yeah, that's what my family say too. The people who were there, they say it was the best wedding. So that's
Jose Ignacio says, do you think one of the best things about weddings is the food? I think it's the drink, actually. I think it's the champagne and the beer and the alcohol and the sometimes free whiskey.
But you don't drink, Craig, do you? You don't
No,
drink.
I'm thinking of weddings in the past, weddings I've enjoyed in the past.
Okay.
And like Lynn, I mean, if you want to come in and share your wedding stories, we'd love to talk to you. Just use the link I'm putting in the chat room and at the bottom of the screen here. Mm-hmm. I also got married. Well, I didn't get married the first time, but I did get married about 5 years ago. And there was something you said before that reminded me of that, and the vocabulary thing's gone. Doesn't matter. So I got married very low key here in Valencia with a Spanish lady that I had known for many, many years before the marriage. And the marriage was just a marriage of convenience, really, just because it made sense for us to get married. So there was no party. It was a very, very, very small registry office wedding with just myself, my bride, who's now my wife, and 3 other people who were witnesses to sign the wedding certificate, to be witness to the ceremony, to make it legal. And I did not tell my family I was getting married.
Oh, wow.
So nobody came. There was no party. My parents didn't come. My mother was quite sick at the time, so I didn't want her to make the journey. I didn't tell my sister because she would have wanted a really big party, and we decided to keep it very, very small. So
and were they upset with you afterwards for not telling them?
I think they were a little upset, but they understood. They understood when we explained it, and they understood the reasons why we'd had a really, really small wedding. And it was a complete contrast to the first time when I didn't get married, when everybody came for the party. So it was the complete opposite.
I think you've been a difficult son, no? Your parents must be pulling their hair out. First they wanted to, and then... Yep.
Tell me about it.
I just realized I have to say hello to my sister-in-law, Maria, because I didn't see your name, Maria. But
which Maria is it? Is it Maria
Rubio Lacova? Because when I was talking about the wedding, she said that was the best wedding ever, and that's because my sister-in-law was there. She was there.
Is that her hiding behind the beer in the photograph?
I think so.
Wedding?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know if it's from the wedding, but that's my sister-in-law. Thanks, Maria.
For me, the best is the atmosphere with your friends. Yeah, it's I think weddings are for friends and family. I don't think weddings are necessarily for the bride and groom. And they can be ridiculously expensive. Can be very difficult to organize, very expensive. They can cause a lot of arguments inside the family. So that leads me maybe to the final question. What's your opinion of weddings? Are they a waste of money or the best day of your life? What do you think, Lynn?
I think they can be a waste of money. It depends how much money you spend on a wedding. Yeah. And I would agree with the comment that you put up afterwards from Coque, which was, you said, Coque, the best is with the atmosphere with your friends. I agree with that. And I do think that it's important to have the wedding with well, for me, it was anyway, to have the wedding with my friends and family. But I found it a little bit, I think a wedding can become very big and very complicated because it's a huge event now. Christine mentioned in the chat earlier, many people have wedding planners now. And it's almost like a Hollywood movie, the wedding. Yeah. And I don't really like doing things like that. So I like to spend time with friends and certainly to celebrate something as nice as I'm decided this is my partner and I'm going to live with this person all my life. That's quite a nice thing. But I preferred to celebrate it in more intimate settings. So I was happy to have a very, very small wedding, and then the 3 different parties. We had like another party with we had lots of parties, but we were able to actually interact with our guests. Some weddings get very, very big, especially here in Spain. Some people can have 500 people at a wedding. I don't know in South America if your weddings are very, very big, but in Spain they can be very big, can't they, the weddings?
They can,
much bigger than in the UK.
Christine says next year she's celebrating her silver wedding. Congratulations. That's 25 years, isn't it? 25 years married. She belongs to a species on the verge of extinction.
Well, my parents, Christine, they were married for 68 years.
Wow.
A long time.
A long time to be with one person.
That's right.
Coquette says it's a waste of money. Unnecessarily. The prefix with the opposite of necessary is unnecessary. I agree. I mean, I think it's nice to celebrate a wedding, but I think society and family pressure expects you to do certain things at a wedding or for a wedding. And I don't think you necessarily have to do what people expect. Why not get married on a beach and then have a barbecue and make sure there's music and dancing and something very happy? It doesn't necessarily have to be in a big hall with a band and an expensive videographer and thousands and thousands of euros on flowers. It doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Well, nobody wants to tell us about their weddings, Lynn. So I think we'll leave it there until next time. What do you think?
Well, we had one more question, which we can fill in for 3 minutes. Do you have any memorable stories of being a guest at a wedding, Craig? What was the best wedding you ever went to? I have one for the best wedding I ever attended.
Well, you tell us that then.
Because the thing is, we have to agree, you agree with me, it's much better going to a wedding than being the bride or the groom in a wedding.
Less pressure.
Oh, yes. And you enjoy it so much more. And I don't think, for me personally, the wedding was not the best day of my life. And I'm glad it wasn't the best day of my life. I mean, I've been with my husband for 21 years. If I thought the first day was the best day, I wouldn't have got married.
It goes downhill from there.
You want to look forward to better days, don't you? And I've had better days with my husband. That's lovely. But the wedding day wasn't the best day, but it's a lot of fun going to weddings. And the best wedding I ever went to was in a wedding in France. I always think going to a wedding in a different country is brilliant because they're all so different. And the French wedding was from my French pen pal, the girl I used to write to when I was at school, and we used to do exchanges. And when she got married, she invited me and my family to France, and we all went for the wedding. And her wedding went on for 3 days.
Wow.
That
was just the food. I mean, they eat for hours and hours and hours, the French, don't they?
Parties. The day before, there was a huge barbecue with all of the guests. There must have been about 80 or 90 people, all of the guests in the countryside. Then there was the wedding day with the ceremony. And then in the afternoon, it was the meal that went on for about 4 or 5 hours. And then there was a break of 1 hour. And then there was a party that started at 9 and went through to 5 the next morning. And then the next day, there was a wedding breakfast. And it was, again, in a marquee in the field. And it went on for 3 days. It was incredible. And it was a lot of fun. And weddings in Spain are very good too.
I went to a French wedding as well once. And my friend who's Scottish was marrying a girl from Normandy. And the wedding was in Normandy. And the day before the wedding, we had a really long lunch, as the French do, for hours and hours. We had the stag night by mistake. the day before the wedding. And if you remember, the stag night is when all the men go out together. And I'm embarrassed to say that we were all, not all, about a dozen of us, about 12 of us, went out on the stag night, got so drunk that we missed the wedding the following day. We didn't get up for the wedding.
Oh, Craig.
We didn't go to the church.
You were such a wild boy in your
luckily my friend forgave me. We still write to each other. He's still living in Normandy, so hello Deke if you're listening. And he forgave me, but I was very, very embarrassed that I missed the wedding because the stag night was the day before, and I was, not only me, myself and about 10 or 11 other people were just too hungover, hangover is resaca, to get up for the wedding.
Oh my goodness.
Anyway.
So they're good for anecdotes and stories. Weddings are good for anecdotes and stories, and weddings can be good for the rest of your life sometimes. But
Marisol says in Ecuador, it depends on the economic situation of the family. Yeah, the same over here in Europe, Marisol. Be careful of the word order in the second sentence. It's a big wedding is pretty common. It's better to change the order. A big wedding is pretty common. Elena says I would prohibit marriages for more than 5 years. I think, I mean, I waited nearly 20 years before I married my wife, so we were sure that we were compatible.
You definitely are.
wait until you're like 60, then get married, and chances are you've picked the right person.
You do it backwards.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we're out of time, so we're going to have to say goodbye. Thank you very much for being with us. It's been a lot of fun, and we hope you'll remember this vocabulary about weddings. I will put the vocabulary on the Facebook page and on the YouTube channel if you want to check it later. And we'll see you again, hopefully next week with Monica, and 2 weeks' time back again with Lynn. So thanks very much, Lynn, and thanks for watching, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you soon.
Bye-bye.